for tuning in. This is Optibotimus coming to you with another video review. And today, we've got a big one. If you remember some time ago, I took a look at this guy. The DC Signature Collection Containment Suit Doomsday. And in that video, I basically gave the story to you about how Matty Collector really did kind of screw us over for the longest time, telling us that the only way that we could get this figure was if we subscribed to a certain tier level for the DC UC sub, and if we wanted to get an Unleashed version, we had to meet an even higher tier. Well, neither of those tiers were met, and the line was subsequently canceled, meaning we were supposed to never get this or an Unleashed version. Then San Diego Comic-Con rolled around, and they basically said, well, hey, we're gonna do you guys a favor, and we're gonna give you this guy. But no, we're not going to give you the Unleashed one. It's too expensive, the tooling is too much, there's no way that we could do it. It's the same basic story that we got with him, but guess what? Lo and behold, here he is. So again, Matty Collector basically gets caught in a lie. And I'm happy to say that for all intents and purposes, this is the last figure that I intend on ever really buying from him. And I couldn't be happier. And it's very funny that it's Doomsday. So the end of my buying for Matty Collector ends with Doomsday. It's just kind of poetic justice, I guess. But one thing that I find interesting is that they use the white box with the bloody red Superman logo. Now that right up front is not very accurate. The bloody red logo was actually on a black background. It was a special plastic cover for issue number 75, which this is my copy of 75. I've had this ever since it came out. Unfortunately, it's a third printing because these things went crazy, but I still have several of my Superman comics, and I'm happy about that. The white background was actually a plastic cover that was on, I think it was the beginning of Funeral for a Friend, which was the storyline after Superman died. So this is already wrong, and it kind of is funky, but I mean, it's cool looking. It's very striking, I guess. Come around here, like I said, you got this Signature Collection Doomsday. Come around here to the back of it, and it basically gives you a whole story here of Doomsday starting off in the history, and you can see where the Justice League first started fighting him. Superman came in, he went to Metropolis. That's where the huge battle took place, ultimately resulting in Superman dying. Although the actual story is he didn't really die. Neither did Doomsday, honestly. The Superman was so ridiculously weak that he basically seemed dead. And then you open this up, and this is actually really cool, getting this out. And again, I'll give massive props to Mattel for coming up with some really cool packaging. As you can see, you got this nice wraparound image of Doomsday with a Superman cape kind of held up in his knuckles, and you can slide this. You got a nice Superman logo cut here, and then you can see the figure inside. You slide this up, and here you have the figure within. And again, I am just amazed at how massive this is. I mean, again, bringing in the containment suit version, I mean, you can see that they're really big, but with all of his spikes, he gets even more massive. And we'll take a look closer here in just a little bit, but this is really very cool. But again, one thing that I don't particularly care for is him holding that. Now, I know it resembles the package here, and one thing that's really nice, you can actually open this up and you get a real nice, a very large, almost poster kind of thing. I know it resembles that, but I don't remember a comic ever having this, and I went back and looked, and there were no comic covers that actually highlighted that, so I'm not exactly sure where they got this idea from. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but there was never a scene where Doomsday stood victorious with Superman's cape in his hand like that, so it's kind of weird, but really cool, kind of three-dimensional package here. You can see like some smoke designs coming through and everything. Come around here to the back, and you got the same read-up that was actually on the back of that white box. Come around here, and this is the more iconic image that we've seen. And again, bringing in my comic, I mean, you can see it's nicely recreated here, and I absolutely dig that. That's really cool. So, I mean, for the packaging, it's absolutely stunning, and really is one of those that you could potentially just leave in the package because it looks that good. But obviously, we're not going to do that, so let's get this guy open and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have the Unleashed Doomsday opened up and out of its packaging. And again, the size is what really does grab me and impress me with this. Getting it out of the way right up front. this is the size scale that you're looking at. And people have complained that, you know, well, Doomsday was never really that big. Actually, in some instances, yes, he was. In a lot of the up-close battles that we saw in the comic books of Superman versus Doomsday, Doomsday was scaled down a little bit more. But in much wider shots and in some of the panels that we saw with the Justice League battling Doomsday, he really was this monstrous. So the scale works very nicely, if you ask me. I mean, Doomsday should be a hulking, powerful beast that just towers over Superman, and I really think that they did a great job with it. Now, one thing that bothers me, like I said, is this whole thing. I think it's very cool that they thought to include this, and this can be removed. It's just a soft fabric cape, so you just pull it up and then you can remove it. But honestly, like I said, he never did this. There was never a time where Doomsday, you know, stayed over Superman in a victorious pose like this. So it bothers me. Now, I understand that they're recreating that especially created art that's on the package and things like that, but I honestly would have preferred it if they gave us this on some kind of a stick or something like that, just to kind of replicate that cover of Superman 75. I think that would have looked a whole lot better. I mean, if you just, I don't really have a stick here. Let me see what I have sitting here. I have a sword. So I mean, if you had something like this, you know, with Superman's cape just kind of floating in the breeze like this, I think that would have been a lot cooler to have. Now, granted, yeah, you probably could do it, just get a stick or something like that and recreate it yourself. But I mean, if you're going to be paying that price for this, I really think that they should have went that extra mile and recreated that issue number 75 cover. I think it just would have been a much nicer overall display piece. So you do have that. You can see that it's nice and tattered. It is this actual fabric cape, so that's pretty cool. Although, again, you got a hard plastic cover here with actually Superman's cape. So it's kind of weird and doesn't really match that figure all that much, but this is awesome. Now, Matty Collector essentially lied to us again in the fact that this isn't a 100% newly tooled figure. There's a lot that's all brand new on here. But setting him here to the side and bringing in, getting my arm out of the way, bringing in the containment suit one, you're seeing a big difference between them. But as I said, it's not 100% brand new like this figure is. There are some reused parts. Most notably, down here in the actual feet, as you can see that this section right here rotates beneath this little wire in this part of the knee. So all of this down here is exactly the same on this. So the foot and the lower part of the calf, that's reused. In addition to that, you can see that the upper part of the thigh and this crotch piece is all, well, that's kind of in the way. So you can see that the waist rotates here and then rotates at the midpoint here of the thigh. So all of this from the crotch area to the upper part of the thigh is also the same on this figure. As you can see, it rotates there and then it rotates right there. So this is all basically the same. A lot of the rest is very, very different, obviously, but again, it's Matty Collector and they're caught kind of BSing us. But you can see a big difference here, and as much as I love this figure, I think it's really cool. This is the version that collectors wanted. This is cool, and I can imagine some people picking this one up, but this is what we all wanted. And I'm glad to see that they actually did it, despite a lot of kind of misinformation given to us for the most part. But here he is, and it is absolutely beautiful. They really did do a great job on the figure. You can see that his spikes have a great amount of detail with the various lines and paint detail on there. Same thing here with the actual shins. These are all, as you can see, soft rubber pieces, which makes sense. It's a safety issue, but I really think that they did a great job of still painting it and capturing a great likeness to how Doomsday really had been designed in the comic books. I mean, this is really quite impressive. All the spikes here in the face, I mean, you can see that on the inside. He's got a reddish tongue. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's in there. I love that they recreated the bones coming across his eyes. It's absolutely incredible. Really nice paint detail on here. You got a very subtle wash, kind of giving some definition to the muscles and things of that nature, but just overall very well done. For his articulation, starting off with the top of the head, you can see that the hair actually does rotate, so you can position this how you may actually want. The head is on a ball joint, so you get a nice range of motion, but because that the neck is like this, you can see that it does pivot up and down, but once you put it all the way up like that, as if he's looking up, kind of locks it, and you can only rotate it around. But I mean, it really is a better design when you keep it kind of hunched over like so. The shoulders here move forward, back, they move in and out. Full range of motion there. They got an upper bicep swivel. He rotates back and forth here at the elbow. The wrists move all the way around. He does have an ab crunch that you can move forward and back, as well as a waist rotation. The hips here move forward, they move back, move in and out. They rotate at the upper part of the midpoint of the thigh, I should say. Bends here. I love how the bone section here is a part of the lower part of the leg, so that doesn't hinder any of the articulation as well. He does rotate mid-calf, I suppose. He moves forward and back at the ankle, and there is a little bit of a pivot forward and back. One thing that is kind of unfortunate is that some of the joints are a little bit loose. These are a little bit loose. I mean, they hold fairly well, but you can see that's a little flimsy right there. And then this is a lot looser than this. Now, granted, I can probably tighten that up, but that does seem to be a common problem with this figure, that some of the joints aren't as tight as a lot of collectors would like them to be. And that's unfortunate because you can't really get a ton of great poses with him if he's not able to support his own weight. And while he is a heavier figure, he's not too heavy. But that weight that he does have is a little bit harder to actually get him to balance. So, I mean, all you're really able to do is kind of get him to, you know, stand at a crouch or something like that. I mean, he can stand pretty well, and I mean, you can get some really cool looks for him, but I really think that with him having weaker ankles specifically, it hurts some of the posing that you can do. So all the articulation is there, you just can't utilize it as best as possible. But I mean, despite some of the inaccuracies in terms of the packaging and including this piece, you know, in a display that I don't particularly care for, the figure itself is absolutely wonderful. And I really do feel what collectors have deserved for a long time. I mean, for me, the Superman Doomsday series is really what got me into comic books when I was like 14 years old. And it's great to finally have a representation of that in terms of toy form that just works perfectly. Now, the unfortunate nature is this is a Matty collector thing, so it is currently sold out. But if you do want to pick this up, there are alternate means that you can go through. And if this is one that you want to have in your collection next to a Superman all day long, I would recommend picking this up. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Don't forget that you can keep in touch with me by liking my Facebook page at facebook.com/teambotimus and by following me over on Twitter at twitter.com/optibotimus. Also, I'd encourage you to check out my new website at optibotimusreviews.com, where you can see all my videos from the previous week, see what I have coming up for future release, and also get your very own Optibotimus t-shirt. And finally, I'd also really appreciate it, guys, that if you like this review, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.